E3 2017 is just around the corner, so I thought now would be a good time to look back and reminisce about Nintendo's E3 showcases of ages past. Compiling a list of Nintendo's best showings was no easy task. While they've certainly had their fair share of, not very good E3 presentations, I feel Nintendo is most often the star of the show. I personally began paying attention to E3 beginning in 2006, so I narrowed my pickings down to the last 11 years, and from there, further trimmed down my list to what I believe are Nintendo's top 5 E3 presentations. Enjoy! In 2013, Nintendo shocked the masses by, for the first time, not having a traditional press conference. This led many to believe that Nintendo wouldn't have a presence at the show, or at the very least, they didn't have much to show, so they didn't want to waste money on a big event. In the end, however, Nintendo proved they didn't need a big, expensive, overblown press conference to have a really satisfying E3. Via Nintendo Direct, they revealed Donkey Kong Country, Tropical Freeze, Super Mario 3D World, and Mario Kart 8. I can understand why some weren't too happy with the show. For starters, Tropical Freeze, despite being a really good game, was kind of a disappointment. People were really looking forward to seeing what Retro Studios was working on at the time. Was it a new Metroid Prime? Was it some other Nintendo franchise? A new IP entirely? No, it was just Donkey Kong. Again. Like I said, good game, but it didn't make for the most exciting announcement. And then there's Super Mario 3D World. Personally, I love this game. It's one of my favorite Mario games, and maybe even one of my favorite games of all time. But when it was first revealed, I was pretty disappointed. When Nintendo told us they were making a new 3D Mario game and that it would be revealed at E3, I was beyond excited. I expected something along the lines of what we're now finally getting in Super Mario Odyssey. At the time, 3D World just looked like 3D Land, but with fancier graphics, multiplayer, and weird cat suits. Again, amazing game, but it didn't leave a great first impression. On the positive side, Mario Kart 8 looked so good and still does to this day. It's easily one of Nintendo's best looking games, period. But Nintendo's biggest unveiling at E3 2013 was Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and Nintendo 3DS. The trailer was epic, showing off both versions of the game, plus a ton of new stages, but more importantly, it introduced a great unexpected new character in the Villager from Animal Crossing. Then the screen went black, and it looked like the Nintendo Direct was over, when suddenly, Challenger approaching. What? Who's that? Is that? What? Just a year later, Nintendo really found their footing in their no press conference approach to E3, ditching the Nintendo Direct formula and going with something called a digital event instead. The hilarious Robot Chicken style skits spread intermittently throughout the event really made for a far more entertaining show. As for the games, there was plenty of great things on display. Super Mario Maker looked promising, and Kirby and the Rainbow Curse looked like a really fun experience. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker was a big surprise and ultimately a great game, but the two biggest unveilings were undoubtedly Splatoon, which was an all-new and incredibly inventive IP that in the end became a massive success, and of course our very first long-awaited look at the game that would eventually be known as The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's just too bad that we wouldn't actually get to play the game until 2015. 2016. 2017, god damn it! Admittedly, Nintendo's press conference at E3 2006 may not have been the most impactful. There was plenty of sales talk and investor pandering, which is unfortunately common at E3, and I felt, in retrospect, that it kind of brought the show's entertainment factor down a little bit. However, this happened to be my first E3 that I actually followed, so I may be acting out of nostalgia by putting this as my number 3. So what was so good about E3 2006? Well, for starters, check out Miyamoto's sweet dance moves. Now that's how you start a show. They also unveiled Super Mario Galaxy at this show during a proof of concept compilation video for the then upcoming Wii console. I really enjoyed that video. I thought they had a lot of great ideas for the Wii, showing that motion controls can benefit both casual and hardcore styles of games. They also showed Twilight Princess running on the Wii for the first time and announced that it would be available on the Wii's launch day, which was great news. Also, if I'm not mistaken, this was also the first gameplay footage we've ever seen of Metroid Prime 3. In other news, though it wasn't shown at the actual press conference, Nintendo also revealed the very first trailer for Super Smash Bros. Brawl, showing off new gameplay features such as the Final Smash, as well as a ton of new characters such as Pit, Meta Knight, Wario, Zero Suit Samus, and none other than Solid freaking Snake. All in all, it was a pretty great E3. Showtime! While I found it a little difficult to choose and rank those last 3 picks, I have no doubt that these next 2 are Nintendo's absolute best showings at E3. Nintendo started their E3 2009 media briefing by announcing the first ever 4-player co-op Super Mario Bros. Game, New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Keep in mind, this was just the second game in the new Super Mario Bros. Series. This was before it became cool to hate the series, just because the next 2 games released so close to each other 3 years later. And if New Super Mario Bros. Wii wasn't your cup of tea, and you considered yourself more of a Super Mario Galaxy kind of guy, Nintendo had you covered with the amazing Super Mario Galaxy 2, a game nobody would have ever expected. I mean, there wasn't a 64 2 or a Sunshine 2 after all. And if you were a fan of the Golden Sun series on Game Boy Advance, whoo-wee, did Nintendo have a surprise for you. Golden Sun DS, the first entry in the series in 7 long years. And if your mouth wasn't already watering over this glorious lineup of games, Nintendo closed the show with one final surprise. An all-new style of Metroid game, featuring full voice acting, gorgeous CG cutscenes, a new story-based structure, an all-new gameplay style, graphics that absolutely push the Wii to its limits, and countless references to fan-favorite Super Metroid, including an epic CG recreation of that game's final showdown with Mother Brain. The game looked amazing. I was in absolute awe of what I witnessed. Now, in retrospect, we know how Golden Sun Dark Dawn turned out, and we know how Metroid Other M turned out. But back in summer 2009, everything was so unexpected and so promising. Regardless of how some of those games would eventually be received, you have to admit, they made for a pretty awesome presentation, and that's why E3 2009 takes my number 2 spot.
Mario number 1!
E3 2010 was so good, I don't even know where to begin. Let's see. The show began with the first ever footage of The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, and the game looked great. Aside from Twilight Princess, I don't think I've ever been so excited for a game before. Speaking of Twilight Princess, that game was 4 years old at the time. We had to wait 4 whole years just to get a glimpse at the next game in the series, and it was worth it. But wait a minute, they showed Zelda first? Surely they can't top Zelda. They should have saved it for last, right? Nope. They still had their fair share of games to announce for the aging Wii console, including Kirby's Epic Yarn, which was just such a cool, crazy concept, a remake of GoldenEye on N64, which was considered a big deal at the time, and last but not least, a return to form for a certain famous ape. Donkey Kong Country returns. So now we have Zelda, Kirby, GoldenEye, and the very first DKC since 1996? Surely nothing can top that! Oh wait, weren't they supposed to show something called a 3DS? Aw, shit, there it is! The first ever game announced for it? The long awaited revival of Kid Icarus, a series that hasn't had a game since the Game Boy days. Better yet, it was being developed by none other than Smash Bros. Creator Masahiro Sakurai himself. And the show ended on a fantastic note, with a bunch of women coming out with their 3DSs attached to them for the press to try right then and there. The end, right? As if the press conference wasn't already great enough, Nintendo still had a ton to announce right after, including Resident Evil Revelations, which by the way has ridiculously detailed graphics, making the new console look like a freaking powerhouse compared to our old DS's. Other than that, there was Mario Kart 3D, Kingdom Hearts 3D, promises of Castlevania, Shin Megami Tensei, and Persona, and the first ever remake of a Legend of Zelda game with Ocarina of Time 3D. The system was just announced and it already had one of the best lineups I've ever seen. Finally, there was one more reveal, bigger than Resident Evil, bigger than Donkey Kong, bigger than both Zeldas. I would have traded every one of those games for this one. The long-awaited true successor to Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door, Paper Mario 3D! Hey, wanna know a secret? Liking videos on YouTube is actually a very good way to help the content creator, so like this video and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos from Ninty Love in the future. And be sure to follow me on Twitter if you have an account there, and let me know down in the comments what your favorite E3 moment is. Thank you for watching.